André Rieu possessed an immense fortune, comparable to that of a rock star, as well as mansions befitting a monarch and perpetually packed halls worldwide. Amidst the glitz, glamour, and standing ovations, though, there was a story that no one had anticipated. No pop star, no matter how famous, has ever made $40 million solely from classical music. His closest relatives would eventually be weeping over this enormous fortune. Why would that be? At first, he was poor. When he was younger, he had a deep appreciation for music. I was constantly surrounded by music, because his dad was the conductor of the Mric Symphony Orchestra. For him it was pivotal. It was clear to André right away that he didn't want to blend in at the stuffy club. Something more substantial, boisterous, and thrilling was required. People were able to clap, sing, and slowly stand up, thanks to André. André did something extremely risky in 1987 that could have catapulted him to stardom or doomed him forever. Not a modest ensemble playing softly for admiration, but a full-on entertainment force. The Johann Strauss Orchestra was founded by him. A group of 12 musicians swiftly expanded to 60-plus performers, hailing from every corner of the globe. Along with traditional waltzes, André played a wide variety of music, including Strauss songs, the Macarena, and many more. That was successful. Many were quite pleased. He went from selling out theaters to arenas and stadiums around the globe in no time at all, as his tickets sold out in record time. No one had anticipated how quickly it would arrive. André wasn't merely successful, he had surpassed the record sales of major acts like Coldplay, Bruce Springsteen, and AC/DC by the early 2000s. His DVDs were a smashing success, and his shows consistently brought in a ton of cash. As at rock concerts, fans traveled great distances, spent a pretty penny, and cheered their hearts out. André became the wealthiest fiddler in the world as a result of his booming business and rapid accumulation of wealth. Keep in mind that André didn't stash his cash away in a bank. He blew all his money on producing even more elaborate performances. In 2008, while designing a $30 million set for his show at Vienna's Schönbrunn Palace, he nearly lost everything he owned. As far as the fans were concerned, André Rieu was going to create something out of a fairy tale, replete with glitz and glamour. His entire fortune was nearly wiped out by that story. The astronomical price tag nearly bankrupted him and instantly wiped out decades of profits. André had dared to take risks before, but this one nearly broke him. However, he was adamant about continuing. André paid off his bills and made his shows even more popular as he gradually got his finances in order, one event at a time. In a matter of years, he had amassed unprecedented wealth, intelligence, and physical prowess. By streaming his shows in theaters all over the world, he made them into international sensations, drawing in even more viewers. If they couldn't afford to fly to see him perform live, his fans still had the chance to be a part of the action by purchasing expensive movie tickets. Not only did André's income return, it doubled, tripled, and reached an astounding $40 million by 2023. Furthermore, André amassed a substantial fortune. From the start, he had his partner, his wife Marjorie, by his side. The incredible stage sets that were visible all over the globe were planned by Marjorie, who also designed the costumes and assisted in choosing the locations. They established an entertainment company that became a true family business by working together to give each show its own distinct flavor. Their son Pierre, who is now vice president of André Rieu Productions, also took on a significant role. Because of this, the business became more like a musical family. Even though André's shows were popular, he never lost sight of his roots. He resided in a Maastricht castle that dates back to 1452, a genuine castle.
Indeed.
Reportedly, D'Artagnan, one of the three musketeers, had his last supper here before succumbing to wounds sustained in battle, so it wasn't your average house. For as long as he could remember, Andre fantasized about having it. Finally, he had it. He poured a lot of money into renovating it, turning it into a fairy tale mansion complete with enchanting grounds, priceless artwork, and glistening chandeliers. It seemed like something out of a movie, but it was actually Andre's daily reality. Regardless of his wealth, he continued moving at a rapid pace. He continued to tour non-stop, taking his shows all over the world, from the United States and Europe to Japan and Australia. His trips, audiences, and fortune all increased annually. He had gone from being a mere singer to an international phenomenon whose name had become an unstoppable cash cow. Andre continued to indulge in one peculiar hobby, baking, despite his fame and wealth. Unexpectedly, Andre began baking cakes and distributing them to his neighbors during the lockdown of 2020, when concerts were postponed and ticket sales dropped by millions of dollars. It was just simple, unassuming kindness, nothing more. A subtle nod that the man behind the massive corporation was still human and concerned about life's little pleasures. Andre, though, had wealth beyond that. His acting career was crucial to Andre's empire, so when he had a severe ear infection in 2010, everything nearly came crashing down again. Doctors were surprised he hadn't been sick sooner, considering his hectic schedule. At last, his loved ones realized how quickly they could lose all of their money. Their entire strategy was predicated on Andre's well-being. A single sickness or postponed tour could immediately wipe out millions of dollars. Much stress was present. Although Andre improved, he persisted. He was hell-bent on keeping making music and money, and had no plans to slow down. The tension persisted though. As far as the public could tell, Andre was having fun and acting effortlessly, but his family was struggling to manage a multi-million-dollar enterprise and secretly taking risks. There was a lot of money spent on set designs, venues, bands, and advertising for every major show. If things didn't work out, Andre's entire creation would be in jeopardy. Then an additional secret emerged. It wasn't only from his performances that Andre raked in the dough. He had been secretly amassing a massive real estate empire by purchasing mansions across Europe for millions of dollars. While his Maastricht castle was well known to fans, word got out about the massive expansion of his real estate empire much later. There was a great deal of significant history associated with the Maastricht castle. It was not merely a house. The renowned musketeer from the Three Musketeers, Charles de Batz Castelmore d'Artagnan, whose real life served as inspiration for the castle, owned it since its construction in 1452. On the other hand, Andre initially thought this place lacked elegance. Even though he started taking piano lessons at the tender age of 6, I can assure you that it wasn't love at first sight. It was foreboding because of the darkness and the state of disrepair. Very far from the ideal place to enjoy life to the fullest. The eerie old castle was transformed from a ruin into a fantastical mansion worthy of a fairy tale. After a long period of time had passed, it was the focal point of Andre's dominion. Andre decked out his castle in Maastricht with the kind of luxurious furnishings that the rest of us can only dream of seeing on Netflix. Grasp the Stradivarius violin that he possesses. Antonio Stradivari created this unusual instrument in 1692. With a whopping £7 million, Andre acquired his third Stradivari in 2018. One of Stradivari's earliest instruments, the one he owned initially, dates back to 1667. Playing, though, was a challenge. Despite its harsh tone, Andre used it to create some of his finest albums. Andre was a talented musician who adored music. Numerous violins, each valued in the millions of dollars, belonged to him. With his instruments, Andre enjoyed more than just a posh existence. Even down to the uniforms worn by the orchestra, he had complete control over his performances. Think about the stunning gowns his female players sported. Andrei painstakingly crafted each one by hand, taking inspiration from historical figures like Austria's Empress Elizabeth. Those dresses cost about £3,000, and that's no joke. You can understand why Andrei was once in debt due to his stage designs when you consider the dozens of musicians who perform on each tour, filing for bankruptcy. Yet recall that wild stage he built for his Vienna performances in 2008, featuring authentic ice rinks, waterfalls, golden carriages, and posh ballrooms complete with dancers. It was a carbon copy of Schönbrunn Palace. Impressive, isn't it? However, epic does cost money. It was an incredible £34 million that Andrei squandered on it. He spent an absurd amount of money on gas touring with not one, but 3 sets, which he created independently. It was dazzling and ingenious, yet it nearly took his life. Andrei and his bank boss finally got down to business, discussing possible loans to settle their massive debt. However, he overcame that adversity and returned even more resilient than before. Nobody could stop this man. Was that so? At home, everything appeared to be normal, relaxed, and calm. It would be at least somewhat typical if it were a real house. Marc and Pierre were their sons, from their marriage to Marjorie, which he had since 1975. The castle walls were adorned with joyful family portraits, transporting visitors back to the carefree days of Andrei's early years. Nonetheless, his loved ones were now integral to his company. The scripts that Marjorie wrote for his shows had an impact on music and people everywhere. Andrei, Rieu Productions' vice president, is their younger son Pierre, who took the initiative. Board meetings were actually taking place during family dinners, which gave the impression that they were simply gatherings. Business and family members gathered at every meeting. Andrei had a less than ideal upbringing, despite his posh lifestyle and penchant for decadent desserts. Growing up in a cramped Maastricht home with 5 brothers wasn't easy. Despite his father's leadership in the band, he had little affection for him. His mother is even more unyielding. Because Andrei picked up the violin so well in the weeks following his 5th birthday, he assumed they were jealous of his innate talent. He triumphed over adversity through his music, but the wounds he suffered from continued to drive him to greater heights of fame, fortune, and success. Even at the beginning, Andrei's determination to prove himself was apparent. He assembled his first band in 1978. It consisted of 12 musicians who performed at weddings and intimate restaurants. Funds were difficult to come by. To make matters worse, some of the diners weren't even raising their eyes from their plates to look at them. Andrei seriously considered moving on from music. He even made light of the idea by suggesting he start a pizza joint. Think of Andrei Rieu as a violin-wielding pizza delivery guy for Paganini. The good news for his legions of admirers is that he never stopped writing music. In 1987, Andrei reorganized his group and formed the world-renowned Johann Strauss Orchestra. The original Waltz King, Johann Strauss, was an inspiration to him because he proved that creative people could be astute business people. Strauss featured a quintet of musicians performing in tandem. At last, Andrei settled on a single massive orchestra, the largest privately owned orchestra in the world to perform with. They played to sold-out audiences in Europe, Asia, and the Americas during their global tour. During a memorable soccer match in 1995, Andrei's fame skyrocketed. During halftime of Bayern Munich's Champions League final match against Ajax, Andrei astutely purchased 1 minute of live TV time to perform his music. The timing of Ajax's goal just before halftime was impeccable. The live broadcast of Andrei's performance of Shostakovich's Waltz No. 2 was watched by many. He became an instant celebrity around the world after selling over 200,000 CDs in the following week. His life took a dramatic turn when he scored a crucial soccer goal. Dreams became realities as they grew in magnitude. Andrei spent millions of dollars making sure his shows were the most spectacular events possible, with fake snow, balloon drops, and fancy ball gowns. Every performance was a wild battle. Even though he didn't partake in the beverage, he allegedly insisted on providing genuine champagne during performances in an effort to maintain authenticity. The show was a huge hit with viewers. Even though some people gave Andre strange looks, he was unconcerned. Truth was what he sought, not a magic bullet. Be genuine. Despite the abundance of comfort, Andre maintained his authenticity. While under lockdown, he read crime novels to brush up on his Spanish, enjoyed Tintin stories, and clung to a simple toy truck from his youth. He had fond memories of his childhood playing with his brother Robert and constructing makeshift vehicles from discarded wheels and wood, and this truck brought back those memories. Though he lived in the past, Andre was more than just a wealthy man. He was looking forward to what the future held. Because of Andre's enormous staff of helpers and 60 players, his orchestra was larger than before. Now it was the largest private orchestra in the world, much larger. Being the biggest classical star in the world and selling 40 million records weren't enough to satisfy him. He set out to accomplish an unprecedented feat in the history of art. He had a strong desire to host a performance on the moon. I assure you, you heard correctly, a celestial body. Andre, it was serious. A hotel on the moon's surface was even discussed by him and billionaire Richard Branson. That was Branson's vow. He has a reputation for having wild ideas. Andre, who is he? He intended to perform the first ever concert in space with his massive Johann Strauss orchestra. This was the genius responsible for classical music, selling more records than Beyonce and Metallica combined. So it didn't make sense until you remember. No one but Andre Rieu could pull off a lunar concert. Andre seems very driven and accomplished, but how did he become this way? While most orchestras receive funding from foundations or affluent individuals, Andre raised the funds for his orchestra independently. Near the end of the 1980s, he was practically penniless. His only resources were an irrational desire and the support of a small group of trusted friends. Even before he started, Andre was dead. He reinvests every cent of the band's earnings from album and concert ticket sales, since they were unsupported by sponsors or the government. Not including gas money, he must now shell out at least $1 million monthly to keep this massive enterprise afloat. That necessitated that all concerts sell out and all albums reach the top of their respective charts. Overnight, everything would crumble if they didn't. About 110 people, including musicians, lighting technicians, and chefs, were employed full-time by Andre. To aid with promotion, logistics, and travel, he also engaged 100 independent contractors from all over the globe. It was a family affair, not just a business. Another set of relatives, one that traveled the globe in unison, assembling and dismantling massive stage sets in stadiums from Mexico City to Sydney. Every city required 9 massive vehicles, stocked with costumes, lighting, instruments, props, and constantly toiling away. His crew would frequently begin assembling the stage as early as 7 o'clock in the morning. Majis, then promptly moving in at midnight. After the 3-hour show had ended, every performance seemed magical to the audience, but it was really a lot of concentrated effort on the part of the performers. Andre had a severe stance. It is not acceptable to act like a rock star. Even Andre slept before each show to keep awake, and he made sure his team ate healthy meals by having their own cooks travel with them. A single lackluster performance or sleepless night could ruin his reputation and cost him millions of dollars. After each performance, Andre would make sure that his musicians and he celebrated. There was only good wine and light conversation at these soirees. There was no wild shit. This wasn't merely a job for Andre. It was his calling. This relentless work ethic truly yielded results. Despite the prevalence of streaming and digital music, Andre's albums still managed to sell a staggering amount of copies. His record label Universal Music had collaborated with him for over 20 years, and the output was phenomenal. More than 40 million albums were sold globally by Andre during his 20-year career. Typically, only pop stars sell this many records. Even though DVDs were supposed to be dying out, Andre's legion of fans continued to shell out millions of dollars annually for releases featuring footage from his world-famous summer concerts in Mar every year. He painstakingly edited these show DVDs, and fans went crazy to purchase them. This confirmed what Andre had suspected all along. His fans preferred tangible, physical. Not only was Andre a fantastic singer, but he was also an excellent performer who understood his audience. Movie themes. An album he released frequently featured smash hits like My Heart Will Go On. According to Andre, he didn't compose many original songs since he enjoyed covering popular songs and giving them his own spin. This strategy has always been effective. The success of each album he released allowed him to expand his business and guarantee the prompt payment of all musicians and crew members on a monthly basis. However, maintaining such a high level of success was no picnic. There was constant pressure on Andre to keep selling songs and performing. All of his decisions were fraught with peril. Since he had no backers or donors, he had no choice but to keep going, even when the world's shows were cancelled due to a pandemic. While shifting gears, Andre began making cakes for friends and neighbors. He felt connected and content because of this. By 2025, he had already planned to have his 75th birthday film, The Dream Continues, shown in theaters, among other ambitious endeavors. There were never-before-seen shows from Andre's world travels that had played in theaters all over the globe. There was a huge celebration to celebrate his incredible rise from a young boy with big dreams in Maastricht to a beloved hero of millions around the globe. Working hard, being disciplined, and taking risks nobody else would have dared him to do were the secrets to his success, and he never tried to disguise them. The 300 vinyl records owned by his Jewish father-in-law Edgar Kamen had a profound effect on him because they exposed him to music he had never heard or. His style was influenced by these songs, and his shows were accessible to millions of people who never thought they would enjoy classical music. Jewish klezmer music staple, Hava Nadia, was a smash hit at Andre's concerts. On YouTube alone, more than 14 million people heard him perform this song. Andre never lost sight of his roots. No matter how big his star became, he performed all over the world, including Israel, where he received standing ovations for renditions of popular Israeli songs like Jerusalem of Gold. As a grand celebration of his 75th birthday, he had his entire orchestra perform on a boat that cruised through his hometown of Maastricht. People from all over the globe got in on the action by watching compilation DVDs featuring Andre's stellar performances from over the years. Even Andre's own family was surprised and thrilled by his meteoric rise to fame, fortune, and the size of his private orchestra.